Alrighty, let's move things right along here. So this article that I'm going to be bringing up here was found thanks to the Melees over at Melee Games, Kay and James. She found this through the Wayback Machine, and it was an article that was from this year, July 22nd, 2026. But for all intents and purposes, as I, at least for certainly a lot of the silly little circles that I follow, has not quite been making the rounds as you would think with something as this, but it's interesting. And you might go, well, what does this have to do with video games? It gets into it. It does get into it because certain things shift. California's civil rights mafia. Gavin Newsom is running a shakedown campaign against major companies. In 2018, two women filed a class action suit against Riot Games, the video game colossus responsible for League of Legends, Valorant, and other popular titles. They claimed that the company had denied them and other female employees equal pay, favored men for promotions, and created a hostile work environment. The women wanted Riot Games to pay out and to cause social change. As things have kind of just gone on, the commingling of women within companies and stuff like that is just kind of proven to be a bit disastrous. Because the thing is that as things have gone on, the studies that have been conducted is both the two sexes work in different ways, one requiring a little more time while the other is so oftentimes work a little more harder, pushing forward a little bit differently, and can't help certain biological things when it comes to the other side. They do have for pregnancy time off and stuff like that. There's just differences, but this forced bullshit is just ridiculous. Anyways, going on. 1 year later, the parties agreed to a $10 million settlement. It was a massive sum, but not enough for California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which intervened to block the agreement and claimed that Riot Games could be on the hook for a staggering $400 million. Why were companies going to California for freaks? I mean, there's a lot of them leaving, but we had even Sony, for God's sakes, Sony PlayStation going and putting a headquarters in California. Why in God's green earth would you do such a thing? Facing court battle against a deep-pocketed state agency, Riot Games later agreed to a $100 million settlement. Jesus Christ. About 10 times the original amount. California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing, now called the Civil Rights Department, Jesus, has turned the Riot Games strategy into an entire playbook. And if you aren't if you haven't been paying attention to too many controversies within the gaming industry, this is where it started, folks. All to squeeze out every bit of money. For years, the state civil rights apparatus has enabled nonprofits and lawyers to shake down major companies, spinning small dollar claims into massive multi-million dollar settlements. The system operates like a mafia. Its Don, Governor Gavin Newsom, sits at the top. His capo CRD director, Kevin Kish, runs the shakedown campaigns, and the state advances the interests of the entire Democratic apparatus. The Civil Rights Department secures settlement cash for radical NGOs. Labor leaders can use the cases to create pressure for unionization, and left-wing lawyers cause social change at scale. For the first time, we are revealing the inner workings of California's civil rights mafia and exposing the corruption of state government. California's Civil Rights Department was created. Hey, Joker, how's it going? Yes, Gavin Newscum. Oh, stupid YouTube censored you, bro. I see you on the my ground control here through Stream Elements, but and then he says, by the way, good morning to you. YouTube being YouTube, and oh wait, hang on, that's why I had the top chat was not showing, but now I see it on the YouTube side. Well, good morning to you too, sir. Where the hell was I? California Rights Department Civil Rights Department was created in 1980 as the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. The department was initially tasked with enforcing non-discrimination law, but in the wake of the hashtag Me Too and George Floyd social movements, the state's power structure saw an opportunity to turn the agency into a powerhouse. They rebranded the organization as the Civil Rights Department in 2022. In keeping with the agency's focus on shaking down companies for civil rights violations, quote unquote, the shakedown campaigns have been remarkably successful. That's a shame. And but then you're in California. You're screwed coming and going on that one. Alone, the CRD has coursed corporations like Microsoft for $14 million, Snap Inc. $15 million, and Riot Games $100 million to shell out 8 and 9-figure payments. These settlements have variously included provisions for class members, interest groups, and the CRD itself, which is allowed by state law to recoup fees associated with his prosecutions, which is why it said you had them intervene during this $10 million shakedown to go, oh, no, you deserve more. You deserve so much more than that, and you need to get more than that, so then we can also recoup some of our fees there. You got to give us our cut here. Oh God. The CRD's enforcement actions often include one or more predictable features. First, the CRD finds a handful of women or minorities who claim that a large corporation has mistreated them. Then the agency initiates or intervenes in an action against that corporation. Finally, to spin small dollar claims into massive payouts, the CRD generates outrageous liability estimates, which goad the company to the negotiation table. The point man on this scheme is Kevin Kish, a Yale Law School graduate and CRD's director. On his website, the agency notes Kish's reputation for taking a creative approach to advocacy, which involves collaborations with nonprofits and organizing campaigns. In other words, using the department to advance the interests of unions, nonprofits, and left-wing groups. Kish mastered this approach during his time in the progressive legal movement. Before starting in state government, he worked as a director of employment rights project for Bet Zedek legal service, where in one instance he helped turn a small-time wage and hour case into a multi-million settlement against Walmart and one of his contractors. Apparently pleased with Kish's efforts, then Governor Jerry Brown appointed him to lead the Department of Fair Employment and Housing in late 2014. And then we got the gay activist celebrated his appointment with one LGBT group calling Kish a strong and passionate legal champion. Right, Dan Blackridge. Same stuff with Hollywood. It's all run by lawyers, not agents or executives. Joker, living in Nevada. I'm waiting for the earthquake to drop California into the ocean. Results: beachfront property. Yep. Prepare for things to skyrocket. We've all been waiting for that one, and I'm glad I'm out too. So it's like, all right, by all means, let it crash into the sea. In his first few years at the DFEH, Kish oversaw several small-time suits. In 2015, he got a Mexican restaurant chain to cough up. Wow, you even went after a Mexican chain restaurant. Cough up $130,000 in 20. Then in 2017, he induced a rural welfare nonprofit to shell out $152,000. Then in 2019, he intervened in Riot Games' case, which later delivered a 9-figure payout and apparently encouraged him to expand his ambitions. For Kish, who has argued that, quote, there is almost no adult transgender person who has not experienced some form of discrimination. The role represents an opportunity to enforce his broad understanding of quote unquote hate. Hang on. I'm gonna look at something. Where what? Hang on. All right. I love it. I look for this guy and I do get Kevin Nash in the list. What are you telling me? This guy doesn't even have his own wiki page? Why is that? What are you hiding from? I'm shocked here. What's going on? Why hide? Let's see if I can find. Let's see. Not easy to look up what I was looking for. Anyways, back to this. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah. By 2021, Kish had perfected the shakedown model and picked a new target. Activision Blizzard, the video game giant that owns titles like World of Warcraft and Call of Duty. The CRD sued the company, alleging, among other things, that it had discriminated against female employees and cultivated a frat boy culture, which was just basically guys being guys. And if you want a good deep dive, a good real kind of autistic deep dive, over on the Melee Games, their recent podcast, Melee Madness podcast, they did a whole deep dive into that whole allegation and stuff like that, and also just the kind of culture and the way like it was before we had the mass influx of other people joining the gaming community for development and stuff like that. Anyway, according to a criminal referral that we obtained, which was filed by a group tied to a former Activision CEO, good old Bobby Kotick there, the pretext for the department's action was an earlier federal complaint which concluded that charging Activision would, quote, send a message to the industry as a whole. The original class action suit included just 10 of Activision's more than... So the original class action suit included just 10 of Activision's more than 9,000 employees. Just 10. That's all it took. Just 10 out of 9,000. Who would have thought? You'd think you would need a little more of a bigger pool. The complaint claimed, among other things, that, quote, only about 20% of the company's employees were female, that some of its employees riffed, quote, about their sexual encounters, which is even fucking women will do that sort of shit too. They just talk about it maybe a little bit differently. Like I remember when my mom was still working, she talked about the way that her female coworkers talked all the time about that sort of shit and other things. Like she's like, she's like, it was almost to the point where she's like, there's sailors with more clean, that are more behaved than these women are. And that a female employee had committed suicide, potentially in connection with an alleged relationship with a supervisor. Which, again, the Melees jumped into this and discovered, that it was first said it was on a camping trip, but when in fact it was actually during a retreat to Disneyland when she committed suicide. And that there was a whole situation where then, I don't know if this goes into it, Activision initially tried to placate the CRD. Kotick reportedly pledged to add resources to ensure that Activision Blizzard's hiring practices are more diverse. The company's then president, J. Allen Brack, said that he disdained bro culture. Bro culture is what got you where you got, you piece of shit. Like just men coming together, creating something that they want to see brought to life. That's your bro culture. That's it's these soft little fucking nerds that these are the people that definitely were probably bullied and couldn't handle it. So once they got a little bit of taste of power and crap like that, they decided to take it out on everybody else. And that's what's happening with this shit. And had spent his career fighting against it, quote unquote. Activision apparently even offered paid time off to workers who wanted to participate in a staged walkout. Good God. Damn, Black Red Lex was right. Hello, Tehalim29. How's it going? Joker, Superman, next time, don't stop the missiles. Joker, Kevin Nash, Big Sexy, Big Daddy Cool, Diesel. Joker, he's probably friends with Anita. Anita Sarkeesian comes up sometimes way too often when it comes to gaming discussions, and it's like, I want that bitch just to go away so bad. Just go, vanish, poof, bye, bye, bye. Hail to you, Dash. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. We're starting out a little heavy today. It didn't work. In fact, things got worse. Later that year, sensing the company's vulnerability, a labor union called the Communication Workers of America, CWA, filed a suit with the National Labor Relations Board. The union accused the company of trying to prevent workers from demanding a, quote, more equitable, sustainable, and diverse workplace. Okay. The CRD and the CWA had shared ambitions to punish and unionize Activision and even hired the same law firm. Kish's CRD hired the same firm, Outen and Golden, that represented the CWA in another suit. The firm's lawyers said that he believed that it was first time the state of California has retained a private firm to prosecute employment law claims in trial court. In quote to a question about Outen and Gold, CRDA pointed us to a ruling in California's attorney administrative law judges and hearing officers in State Employment v. California State Personal Board. This is where I need somebody like Brad, I swear to God. In September, the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission brought its own misconduct suit against Activision. The agency claimed, among other things, that Activision had exposed female employees to sexual harassment. The two sides agreed to an $18 million settlement. Jesus Christ. But the CRD wasn't satisfied. No. Why would they be? Well, they've already gotten more than that before. Kish saw an opportunity for $1 billion shakedown. Under his direction, the CRD moved to block the 8-figure settlement with the federal government reportedly arguing that it, quote, was monetarily inadequate and contrary to public policy. Their bid proved unsuccessful. A federal court denied the CRD's requested intervention, and the settlement took effect the following March. God damn. By this point, Activision had already agreed to pay nearly $20 million and declared its intention to change its policies and performance review system. But Kish apparently wanted to inflict more damage on the company. The Wall Street Journal reported that sometime in 2021, the CRD estimated that Activision was responsible for nearly $1 billion in damage. An outrageous sum. It was right. What the? This is where just sometimes you sometimes can't blame people for just how much they feel like the justice system is just completely fucked and they have no faith in it anymore. Like when you have these parasites out there that are gouging, like there are companies that I'm sure that try to do well by their workers and stuff like that, and there are the companies that are complete dirt bags and do everything they can just to maximize their own personal pocketbook. And those this is like a whole situation where it's like they will go and make the most sensational news with things when it does come to bad cops, which yes, you should put a spotlight on that, but they don't then spotlight the good ones either. And we you don't get, but and then like when you got things like this going on, you then it starts to be like, why do so many of these corporations have such stupid policies and all this stupid bullshit tied to it? Because of assholes like this. Despite the federal settlement, the CRD continued its lawsuit, and other elements of the shakedown campaign came to life. In November, then Journal reporter Kirsten Grind and others alleged that Kodak failed to disclose alleged sexual misconduct committed against female employees. The company's stock price fell 8% within a month. Some Activision executives and other allies suspected that the state colluded with the press. I mean, God, what was Activision could have been doing? All I know I ever saw when it was this stuff going on with the sexual allegations and stuff like that, it was slamming Activision. There was nothing colluding or positive going on for them at the time. What are you talking about? Same legal filing where we obtained claimed that the Grind is a CWA affiliated union member and had contacted Jeanette Whipper, the CRD attorney overseeing the Activision case under Kish, in hopes of having an quote unquote important conversation further off the record. Grind and co-author gloated that after her report, quote, some employees and investors called for Kodak's ouster, and Microsoft saw an opportunity to make a deal to buy Activision. When we asked Grind, now with the New York Times, for comment on this story, she suggested that we reach out to the Wall Street Journal. Activision executives wanted to fight back. Under the pressure from the state, the unions, and the media, the company hired 3 lobbyists, Greg Campbell, Dana Williamson, and according to a source familiar with the case, Alexis Podesta. In early 2022, the tide began to turn. In March, Newsom's office fired Whipper. Notably, she was fired on the same day that a federal court approved the EEOC settlement, which our source interpreted as a sign that the governor's office was feeling pressure and wanted the case to go away. Less than a month later, Whipper's subordinate, Melanie Proctor, resigned in protest, claiming that Newsom's office had, quote, reportedly demanded advance notice of litigation strategy and of next steps in the litigation. Eventually, Kish scaled back his demands. In December 2023, Activision settled for $55 million. Oh darn! You didn't get that that extra what 6-figure settlement out of them? Wait, no, that's more crap. My brain. He didn't get that extra bit of money this time, huh? Oh no. Didn't get that 100 million or anything. In the settlement agreement, the state concealed that no court or any independent investigation has substantiated allegations of systemic harassment, but the company likely signed the deal to make the lawsuit go away. Well, yeah, because you have people like Jason Schreier out there who's been hawking this one and was certainly going out of his way to promote his book about the Blizzard, Activision allegations and stuff like that, with nothing substantiated and everything like that. So yeah, you got your little goblins out there doing their jobs. The government had not proved its case, but still managed to shake down its mark for tens of millions of dollars. The Civil Rights Department made sure to spread the winnings around. In the settlement, Activision agreed to deliver a handsome reward to the CRD's NGO foot soldiers. The court required the company to send up to about $9 million to the CRD. And out in gold, the CWA's former counsel. The rest of the $55 million was supposedly reserved for affected workers, but any leftover funds not claimed by those workers would support future shakedowns. Specifically, CRD selected organizations that, quote, promote employment rights for workers in California and or advance the interests of women workers in technology industries. The unions have their victory too. In October 2023, Microsoft acquired Activision for $75.4 billion. After agreeing to a host of labor provisions, the CWA required the merger a massive success, boasting that it provided a clear path to collective bargaining for almost 10,000 workers. Hey, and guess what now? A lot of those workers are getting laid off. At least certainly on the Microsoft side. I haven't heard too much about Activision right now, but I'm sure they're getting their layoffs as well. With the final settlement agreement, the Activision story appeared to be over, but another storyline was brewing beneath the surface, raising serious questions about the Newsom administration. The story involves Dana Williamson, the one-time Activision lobbyist who, in January 2023, while the Activision litigation was ongoing, became Governor Newsom's chief of staff. No conflict of interest there. No. During her time in the governor's office, Williamson kept tabs on the Activision case. According to a source with detailed knowledge of the case, the governor sent a text message to Kotick, which we reviewed 1 week after the December 2023 settlement, sharing gratitude that the saga was finally over. January 2024, according to the source in government records obtained by the whistleblower Melanie Proctor, Kotick met with Williamson and former Activision lobbyist Alexa Podesta in the governor's office. According to the source, Kotick, and then retired as Activision CEO, sat down with Williamson to discuss clearing Activision's name. After all, the state had admitted that it had found no evidence of systemic harassment. But they're not going to admit that. I swear, it's like those idiots that'll think that, Disney will admit any wrongdoings as well. No, not even the goddamn government will ever admit that either. Jesus Christ. The source who spoke on the condition of anonymity claims that midway through the meeting, Newsom stepped into the room, engaged in conversation, and unprovoked, said that he would fire Kish. Newsom's office did not respond to our request for comment about these allegations. Williamson apparently believed him. In November 2025, Williamson was indicted, on a suit of federal corruption charges, including bank and wire fraud. Oh no. According to court documents, Williamson conspired with Greg Campbell, another former Activision lobbyist, to siphon money from a dormant campaign account to pay a third party. She and Campbell were both convicted, with Williamson pleading guilty to multiple fraud counts and lying to federal agents. Oh. The alleged corruption was not related to Activision, but the indictment contained a transcript of a conversation between Williamson and Podesta, the former Activision lobbyist and unindicted co-conspirator, that sheds light on Newsom's potential involvement in the civil rights mafia. In a conversation that occurred, quote, in or about June 2024, prosecutors said Williamson discussed a public record request related to a corporation's, quote, litigation with the state. When Podesta asked Williamson if a state employee connected to the litigation would be fired, she said, he sure will. According to multiple outlets and our review of the evidence, the corporation in question was almost certainly Activision, and we can report for the first time that the official in question was likely head of the Civil Rights Department. In other words, Williamson appeared to have told her alleged co-conspirator that as late as of June 2024, Governor Newsom was planning to fire Kevin Kish. The Kish firing, however, never materialized. Kish remains the director of the Civil Rights Department, and more shakedown campaigns are in the pipeline. This will raise a question. Why is Newsom enabling this racket? Why wouldn't he? If anybody is smart enough to know that they can use this just to gain control over these companies and corporations and stuff like that, once they have control of them, then they control the narratives, they control what they produce and everything like that, who's in those positions, and, further on. That's the thing with these fucking liberals, is that they're more than happy and willing to do this, while you got the right that won't do jack fucking shit to gain any kind of control and whatnot. This completely pussy whipped. That's fine. It's fine. One story is that Newsom sympathizes with Kish and wants to punish corporations like the Activision, which in his mind are stand-ins for his political enemies. Another theory is that Newsom has always allowed bad behavior to fester around him at arm's length. Throughout Newsom's career, people in his orbit have been arrested for corruption, including most recently his chief of staff. Perhaps Newsom tolerates Kish's bull in China shop approach because he simply lacks the will to stop it. The most likely explanation, however, is that Newsom will do whatever is politically expedient. Under this theory, Newsom might have promised to fire Kish to placate Williamson or corporate interests, then renege on that promise to placate the unions and the activist groups. Throughout his career, Newsom has been willing to reverse his position if he believes that it is in his immediate interest. I mean, if you want a two-faced snake, well, there you fucking go. Newsom's office did not respond to our request for comment on this story. The Civil Rights Department told us that they, quote, take every complaint we receive seriously and evaluate them individually for further action based on the specific facts and circumstances. If anything, Kish operated under even less restraint. The CRD has now set its sights on the largest target of all, Tesla CEO Elon Musk. In 2022, the department sued Tesla, alleging racial discrimination and harassment. Kish apparently hopes to go much further than in his campaigns against Riot Games, Snap, and Activision. According to a source familiar with the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity, Kish is hoping to shake down Tesla for up to $6 billion. Unlike those other firms, however, Tesla hasn't settled and is taking its chances in court. If Tesla succeeds in fighting these allegations, its resistance could provide a model for future targets of the state's racket. If it fails, it will show that no company, no matter how powerful, can outrun the coordinated campaigns of California's civil rights mafia. So yeah, one hell of a thing. It's not surprising at all, but it certainly gives the blueprints of why, like it is, these Riot and Activision Blizzard have been hit so fucking hard as they have been. The sad thing is that this sort of stuff is just allowed to propagate, and I mean, you have when you have stuff like this running rampant too, it really does like go like, how is it that people are still so hardcore backing even the people in power that were claiming that they were going to be auditing all these sort of things and going after them and taking them down and yada 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 yada. I'm sorry, these things are still like it is. Tesla's basically the next one in the sights. Maybe they'll win, maybe they won't. Who knows? We'll I guess eventually we'll hear about it, but still just allowed to move along as they see fit, being able to shake down and racketeer as they damn well please, getting big sums of payments out of these people, giving the little bits to the quote unquote people that are, you know, the little folk that are part of the claims and stuff like that have been apparently directly affected. They said they were getting the whole little government. And I mean, isn't that, no, I won't ever claim to be a smart man or nothing, but with a government agency like this, doesn't that feel a little weird, a little odd, a little intrusive? I guess that's just the separation of church and state that's supposed to be that. That's certainly what enough people try and hark on about. This just feels a little weird. But yeah, so I found this a very interesting article when the Melees were talking about it, with their whole overview too of going into the allegations against Activision and Blizzard. Like I said, definitely check out their podcast about it. Which was, hang on. So it was the Melee Madness podcast, episode 67, Conspiracy of Hate. Check it out. Like I said, they had a big segment. They have it timestamped so you can jump right into it if you want to. They get into the details with Activision and Blizzard, and especially Jason Schreier and his bullshit with his book and stuff like that. And I mean, this is just furthering like why Activision was targeted, whether there was wrongdoing or not. There was nothing really substantiated by the sounds of it, and all they were going for was just that the company was just going to do the payout so they wouldn't have to worry about it. Damn, Blackred. Blizzard has sucked ever since World of Warcraft. Activision just made it 10 times worse. For some people, there were people that absolutely loved and adored World of Warcraft. I wasn't necessarily one of those people. I've later played, like it is, one of the private servers, which it's been entertaining. But I've never understood the crazy appeal to it. But yeah, like Blizzard just sank all of their efforts into World of Warcraft, and you weren't seeing much for anything else. Other than like, I mean, I think we'd finally gotten like StarCraft 2, and then of course they've done some of their other things, Heroes of the Storm. But yeah, it's not been quite the same. Diablo 3 is not that good. I don't care what Jay Hitman says. It'll still be Diablo 2 is the GOAT. But yeah, so I thought this was really just insanely like illuminating of what's been going on. And certainly for California, it's like it is as if I didn't already loathe my former home state enough. They certainly find reasons to make me loathe it even more and be glad I got the hell out of there when I did. But it's funny also hearing that even the former governor Jerry Brown was even kind of colluding with this nonsense, allegedly. But no surprise with all news scum there. But yeah, so like I said, I thought this was quite the topic and a heavy one to kind of kick things off, but figure gotta pull that band-aid, you know? So yeah.
Thank you for watching this clip from Respawn Roast Cantina. Please like and subscribe if you like what you see, and check out the full episode.